Priests say they're the ghosts of dead gods, but I don't believe they're ghosts. Not after Constantine. Sometimes I can't believe that day ever happened. It happened. Just ask the 146,000 who died. Come on, let's go back to camp. I've got enough ghosts in my life. Monstress is one of the longest running comic book series that is still being published. Written by Marjorie Liu, drawn by Sana Takeda, and lettered by Russ Wooten for 60 issues at the time of filming, it's behind only series like Savage Dragon, Saga, and Usagi Yojimbo as far as series with a single creative team. With 10 volumes and counting at the time of this video, I'm just going to be discussing Volume 1 of this series that has won tons of awards, multiple Eisners, multiple Hugos, the Harvey Book Awards Book of the Year award. So what makes this comic so good? My name is Spike Stonehand, but today you're just getting my mild-mannered alter ego, Steven. And welcome to Divining Comics, where I discuss the magic between the panels of your favorite comics.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality.
Thank you for coming to my channel, where I am doing a comics reading challenge. I devised 52 categories to pick 52 comics from across the globe and across the history of the medium in order to expand my knowledge of the breadth and depth of comic books as an artwork. If you would like to participate in this challenge, I would love for you to do so. You can find a list of all 52 categories linked in the description below. Please comment if you do participate in the challenge. What books are you reading? How do you like them? If you would like to support this channel, please like this video. It does wonders for sharing this with people in the broader YouTube comic fan community. Please share this with any comic book fans in your life who would enjoy this video or like to participate in the challenge. If you'd like to support me specifically, you can do so on patreon.com/diviningcomics. You can get your name in the end credits and maybe even help pick some of the stuff that I'll talk about on this channel. You can also read my writing over at my blog on spikestonehand.com. There I have things like annotations of The Wicked and the Divine, one of my favorite comic book series, weekly new comic buyer's guides, and roundups to all of the comic book writing and industry news that I found interesting in a particular week. Alright, with all that housekeeping aside, let's talk about Monstress. Why is it so beloved? Well, in this first volume, there's actually a lot going on, and I mean a lot. It tells the story of Micah Halfwolf, who is an Arcanic, that is a being of both human and magical ancestry, as she tries to discover the mystery of her origins, what happened to her mother, and why she hungers for flesh. This is a series with a lot of world building, a series with a lot of proper nouns, and that can be kind of overwhelming at first, at least it was to me. You have the Arcanics, like I mentioned, who are both human and magical in origin. Some can pass for human, whereas some have things like foxtails and ears or giant wings that prevent them from ever fully integrating to the human society. The humans and the Arcanics are at war. Humans are led by the Federation of Cumaean witches. This is kind of like imagine a matriarchal Wicca Catholic church. You may be thinking, that sounds pretty cool. I would love to live in that society. No, in this instance, you may be wrong, because this society takes, kidnaps, tortures, enslaves, and ultimately sacrifices the magical Arcanics in order to harvest an energy from them, and this energy keeps them, the humans, young forever. It enhances their abilities. It can heal wounds and scars. You know, now that I think about it, this sounds kind of like the adrenochrome conspiracy theory, so maybe that's not great, but it works here in this series in order to establish the Cumaean witches as evil, as powerful, as a scary threat. And this series does take a little bit to get to what I think is the main ongoing premise. That is, Micah has been possessed by some sort of all powerful, godlike entity, and that is what gives her her hunger for flesh. Sometimes it manifests in her arm, which has been amputated at the elbow. It'll extend outward in kind of a spectral presence that can attack and defend her if need be. And I think this relationship between Micah and whatever this being that is possessing her mind and her body, it seems to be what will make up a lot of the ongoing hook of the series. Micah seems to be maybe not explicitly prophesied, but seen to be really important to the shaping of the history of this world, and so the humans want revenge on her for what she has done in order to attack the witches. The Arcanics want to control her to make sure she doesn't mess things up for them and their delicately achieved balance for the world, and she just wants answers as to why she is the way she is. But it does take a little bit to get to all this premise because there's just so much world building to do. Even the first issue is 3 times the length of a normal issue, and it can still feel like, what's going on? I'm a little bit lost here. One thing that I really do like about this series is that it is much more brutal in an artistic way than I was expecting. For example, in the very first issue, there's a cute little Cyclops kid that he just looks like the kind of fun, cute protagonist that you might see in a more cozy series, and he gets sacrificed, and they show it. It's not gory, but it is brutal, and it doesn't shy away from those more brutal elements of a story like this, and I think that's really cool. It reminds me a lot of Berserk, but obviously less so. Like, if Berserk is a rated R movie that's pushing rated X, Monstress is a rated R movie that if you cut certain scenes you could get it down to PG-13 pretty easily, but it is still very cool to see a series that is dealing with much more adult depictions of the violence that we see here on Earth, but in a metaphorical, fantastical realm. And that violence and its depiction of it brings me to my favorite aspect of this series, and that is Sana Takeda's art. This series is gorgeous. It is so beautiful to look at. Whether it's the magnificent setting, very detailed cities, or intricately drawn steampunk airships, or whether it's the cool character design, which is definitely very manga influenced in all the best ways. Like I said, I love the little fox girl who is Micah's sidekick. I think she looks really good as a character. You have all sorts of giant, ancient, spectral beings that are gods that have deceased in the past that all look gnarly and cool and scary in all the best ways, and the arcanic society that is run by animal human looking hybrids is also, they're all just very good looking characters. The art on this series is for sure the biggest selling point for me, and it may be for you as well if you love comic books that just look good. And it is so detailed. It's not just drawing characters in blank backgrounds like you can see sometimes in comics. You can tell that Takeda has taken her time in drawing and in putting care into these pages and these panels. So much so that I almost wish that there was even more time to breathe, that this comic was even slower in how it told this story, because Takeda's art is just that good looking. And you do have plenty of quiet moments, but I still wish that you could have more magnificent moments. A double page spread showing the airships for the first time you see them would have been really cool. You still get a really, really good looking half a page of airships, but I do wish that they were able to take more time in telling the story. I think that's one of the problems you see in a lot of Western comics that are reliant on a month-to-month schedule versus manga that often will be released week to week. Obviously, that is much more hard on the artists, so there is downsides to it, but it does let you have stories that take their time, where big moments just breathe and sit on their own. And I would love to see more of that if I was to continue reading this series. Which does bring me to the conclusion of this video. Would I continue reading this series? Unfortunately, right now, I think the answer for me is no. And that's not to say I don't think this series has value or is as good as everyone claims it is. I just think that this first arc didn't really have a hook that pulled me in, that made me think I need to know what happens, I need to keep reading more. I do think at some point in the future, when I have time, maybe once the series gets closer to wrapping up, I'm going to read through the whole thing, because I do think the art is beautiful and worth reading. I just wish that there was more of an immediate hook to get me involved in the plot of the story as well. Who would I recommend this series for? Like I mentioned, if you are a fan of Berserk and you want maybe a slightly toned down version, a version of Berserk that you wouldn't feel embarrassed to be reading in public, perhaps, this would be a great series for you. I would also recommend it if you love the genres. I can't think of another steampunk comic, another epic fantasy comic that is done this well and has been going on this long, at least in Western comics. So if you love those genres, I would recommend you check this video out. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to do all the things that I asked you to do to support this channel. Like and comment. Let me know what I got wrong. But we'll look forward to seeing you next week, where I will be discussing Fables Volume 1. Thank you for watching, and never let the magic of comics die.